morning. Hope you guys are having a good start to your day. At this point, you guys should be finished with this small group review. So this should be done. And now you are ready to check it. So hopefully that is the case at this point. So for your quiz tomorrow, remember that you cannot have any negative exponents, any zero exponents. You can't have X's in two places or A's and B's in two places up and down on the numerator and denominator. So you have to make sure that you're using all of your rules to simplify your exponents. On this one, some of you will move this down first, and that's okay. I look at this, what I do is I see a to the negative second and a to the first. And I know when I multiply powers, I add the exponent. So negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. So I have a to the negative 1 times b. And then I say, well, a to the negative 1, that has a negative exponent, needs to drop to the denominator. So b is happy. It stays right where it is. The a is not. It drops to the bottom, becomes a to the first power. So if you have a to the first or a, that's fine. Here, power, when you multiply powers, you add the exponent, invisible 1. That's x to the third. Power of a power, you multiply, z to the 12th. This gets shared to both of those. Again, power of a power, you multiply. So that's a to the 6th, b to the 2nd. Here, this gets shared to both. So you get s to the 5th over t to the 5th. Once you get to this one, you have a 10 in the numerator and a 4 in the denominator, and that is a reducible fraction. 2 goes into 10 5 times, 2 goes into 4 2 times. So 10 over 4 reduces to 5 over 2. And then on number 6, since I have a to the second in the numerator and b in the bottom, there's nothing I can do to simplify this, so I get a to the second over b. This one here, again, just like with regular numbers, you have to follow your order of operations. So I can't multiply until I do power of a power. You have a power of a power here first. So I'm going to bring down a to the third times a to the fourth, and now a power of a power we multiply, that's a to the 10th. Now, these are all being multiplied with the same base, so you can just add them up. So 3 plus 4 is 7, 7 plus 10 is a to the 17th. Okay, this has to get shared to the 6, to the x, and to the y. So I get 6 squared. 6 squared is 6 times 6, which is 36. X to the negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. And y to the 3 times 2 is 6, because those are powers of powers. Multiply. This x is not happy, so it has to go to the bottom and become x to the 8th in the denominator. Y is happy where it is, so it stays in the numerator. Okay, number 3 might have tripped you up just a little bit because it has all these parentheses. What I look for is an exponent out here that needs shared first. Like in number 4, we're going to have to share this 2 first. But in number 3, I don't have anything that's shared. So basically, everything's just being multiplied. You can think of this as negative 4 times x squared times y times 3 times x to the 5th times y to the negative 4th. So the first thing I did was negative 4 times 3. Those are numbers. That's just negative 12. Then I did x to the 2nd times x to the 5th. When you multiply powers, you add the exponents. And then when I do y, remember there's an invisible 1 there. When I add 1 and negative 4, I get negative 3. Now remember, the 12 is fine. It's happy as where it is. It does not have a negative exponent. X is happy. It stays where it is, but y is not. It has to drop to the bottom, become over y to the third. All right, problem number 4, we had to share this exponent first. Now this is important. This negative 5 is in parentheses. So when you think of sharing this, you have to think of this as negative 5 squared. That means negative 5 times negative 5, which is positive 25. Now when I share it here, I power of a power, I multiply. Power of a power, I multiply. Times, I have nothing to share here, so I can just bring this down. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and multiply my numbers. 25 times 4 is 100. I have a to the 6 times a to the negative 2. I'm going to add my exponents. 6 plus negative 2 is 4. And then I'm going to add b to the negative fourth and b to the fourth. That's 0, so they cancel out. B to the 0 is 1. 1 times 100 is 100, so you're done. So this is your final answer for that one. Okay, on the division ones here. Same as up there when we had 10 fourths, you have to look at this. 12 over 4, that can reduce. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Now, when you have 3, it's like having 3 over 1. So 3 is in the numerator. Then I go to my x's because I've got x's in the numerator and x's in the denominator. So I'm going to subtract those. And while I have the highlighter up, I'm going to do the y's. Okay, so I have x to the 5th divided by x to the 3rd. Remember, you subtract 5 minus 3, and that is 2. So I have x squared. Now, on this one, there's 2 ways you can think of this. You can do 2 minus 8, and 2 minus 8 is negative 6. And then I say, well, that negative 6 is not happy. It has to go to the bottom. A lot of times when I'm doing these, I just say, well, if I have 2 y's on the top and 8 on the bottom, when I cancel 2 of them, I'm left with 6 on the bottom. But whatever works for you. Okay, problem number 2, this has to get shared to both. So I have 2 to the 3rd, a to the 12th over 8a to the 3rd. Remember, 2 to the 3rd is 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2, which is 8. So I have 8, a to the 12th over 8, a to the 3rd. Now, 8 over 8, it cancels. It's just 1. 8 divided by 8 is 1, or you can say they just cancel. And then you subtract. Be careful. This is not a to the 4th. That's a common mistake. When you divide powers, you subtract your exponents. 12 minus 3 is a to the 9th. If you have 1a to the 9th, that's acceptable. Okay, number 3. This 5 has to go to everything. So when it goes to everything, I get x to the 20th, because power over power you multiply. Y to the 15th, power over power you multiply. Give it to the bottom, x to the 5th, y to the 10th. Now I have to divide. Again, I have x's in the top and the bottom. I have y's in the top and the bottom, so I have to subtract 20 minus 5. That's x to the 15th. 15 minus 10 is y to the 5th. And so there is your final answer. Now, number 4, when you have a negative exponent on the outside, remember that means you take your fraction and you flip it exactly the way you see it. So I have 3x squared y to the 3rd over 8, or x to the 8th, and now make this a positive 3. Now share that positive. So I get 3 to the 3rd, x, power over power you multiply, so that's 6, power over power you multiply, over, again, power over power you multiply, you get x to the 24th. Okay, 3 to the 3rd, 3 times 3 is 9, times another 3 is 27. Now, the only variables that I can simplify here are my x's. I have 6 on top and 24 on the bottom. So you could do 6 minus 24, which is negative 18. Or, like I said before, just like before, you can sit there and think of this. If I have 6 on the top and 24 on the bottom, when I cancel 6 of them, I am left with 18 on the bottom. So you can either move it back down or you can think of it that other way. So either way works. Okay, so at this point, you guys are done with the small group review. You should be done with the coloring activity. You need to have everything ready from yesterday and Monday to turn into me. So make sure everything's ready to turn into me. You need to study that practice quiz again and be ready for your quiz tomorrow. We'll do a real short review if you have any questions, and then your quiz is tomorrow. Okay, have a great day.